Hi there, I'm AOL White, and I'm here to tell you a story about sports franchises, about ownership that cares and ownership that doesn't, about ownership that's invested and ownership that isn't, and how good ownership with good intention and investment can be ruined by corporate mergers. So sit back and get ready for tip off as I tell you the story of how Atlanta sports and Atlanta sports fans became the casualty of the Time Warner Turner AOL merger. Play ball. Born Robert Edward Turner III, Ted Turner took over his father's billboard company, Turner Outdoor Advertising, after his father took his life in 1963. By the late 1960s, it had become the largest advertising company in the Southeast. After a brief stint in radio, Turner sold his stations in 1969 and turned to a struggling Atlanta UHF television station, WJRJ, now WPCH, rebranding it as WTCG. He turned this typically unprofitable UHF station into a household staple, airing syndicated sitcoms and old movies, until 1972, when he entered into the sports business. WTCG acquired Atlanta Braves broadcasting rights for $600,000, around $4.6 million today, followed by the rights to the Atlanta Hawks and Atlanta Flame, establishing the station as the home for Atlanta sports. In 1976, after pushback from the big three networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Turner successfully lobbied the FCC to broadcast WTCG nationally. By mid-December, WTCG reached viewers across the country. The name TBS comes later, however, after Turner acquires the TBS call letters from MIT's student radio station in exchange for $50,000, officially creating the Turner broadcast system. The Braves. In 1977, the Braves traded Hank Aaron just a year after he broke Babe Ruth's home run record, a move that contributed to 94 losses and waning fan interest. At that point, team ownership told Ted Turner they were selling the team. Turner, surprised to hear that it would be to him, agreed on $10 million. Turner wasn't a baseball man. Teddy Turner joked, "I still don't know if my dad knows the difference between a fastball and a slider," but he was an advertising whiz. Owning the Braves broadcasting rights on WTCG, Turner knew promotion was key. He famously led fans in Take Me Out to the Ball Game on opening day, a pioneering approach that energized the crowd and boosted the team's profile. Even attempting a brief managerial stint, number 27 Turner focused on publicity, turning the Braves into a Southeast powerhouse. The team's WTCG broadcast, combined with the launch of HBO, gave Turner the confidence to transform WTCG into TBS, the nation's first superstation, airing the Braves nationwide. Today, Braves country spans the Southeast, which is a legacy to Turner's marketing vision and broadcasting legacy. Atlanta Hawks. In 1977, Atlanta businessman Tom Cousins, struggling with the Hawks and Flames, sought to exit the sports business. Both teams were losing money despite talents like Sweet Lou Hudson and Pistol Pete Maravich. Turner, already holding the team's broadcasting rights, saw the NBA as a better investment than hockey and purchased the Hawks. Turner brought his signature promotional flair to Atlanta's basketball scene. In June 1988, the Hawks became the first NBA team to play in the USSR, facing a mix of apprehensive Soviet players, excessive vodka, and logistical chaos that even stranded superstar NBA player Dominique Wilkins at 2 airports. This pioneering trip helped introduce professional European players to the NBA, paving the way for stars like Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic. Turner's impact, including saving the Hawks from relocation, is memorialized with his banner in State Farm Arena. The Thrashers. Though offered the Atlanta Flames for free during the sale of the Hawks, Turner waited until the late 90s to enter into hockey. Under TBS, after the Time Warner merger, the Atlanta Thrashers launched in 1999, selling out season tickets and igniting season-wide excitement. Early struggles, poor roster decisions, and lack of star power, however, made it hard to sustain fan interest. Hope arrived when Thrashers drafted Danley Heatley, second overall in the 2000 NHL entry draft. He won Rookie of the Year in 2022. Tragedy struck in September 2003 when Heatley crashed his Ferrari, severely injuring himself and killing his teammate Dan Snyder. Heatley returned but only played 31 more games for the Atlanta Thrashers before deciding he was unable to continue in Atlanta. Without a star and amid franchise turmoil, AOL Time Warner was all too happy to sell the team. World Championship Wrestling. On July 14, 1984, Black Saturday, Vince McMahon's WWF replaced Georgia Championship Wrestling on TBS, angering Southern fans used to regional wrestling. In response, Turner purchased Jim Crockett Promotions in 1988, rebranding it as World Championship Wrestling and airing it on TNT, quickly building a massive following. Turner hired former WWF commentator Eric Bischoff in 1993 as executive producer, and quickly promoting him to senior vice president. Under Bischoff, WCW thrived with the New World Order in the Monday Night Wars against the WWF. Success continued until the AOL Time Warner merger, when corporate mismanagement and disinterest led to WCW's decline, culminating in its 2001 sale to the enemy, Vince McMahon. The beginning of the end. In 1995, Time Warner began blocking Ted Turner from any new acquisitions in a bid to push him towards a $7.5 billion merger, which they were successful. Turner had to include his entire net worth, meaning the Hawks, Braves, and WCW became a part of a corporation with little interest in teams. Turner remained vice chairman with control over the Turner division and, by extension, his sports teams, but for the first time lacked full overall authority. In 2001, he saw his authority completely stripped as AOL merged with Time Warner, sealing the fate of Turner Broadcasting and Atlanta sports. The downfall. WCW initially dominated the Monday Night Wars, but derivative storylines and poor decisions combined with Turner's departure led to its decline. TNT returned to wrestling with a WWE broadcasting agreement, the very company WCW once battled. The Hawks were sold to the Atlanta Spirit, whose mediocre teams drew fans mainly to see visiting stars. Shaq, Kobe, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, and more were bigger attractions in the early 2000s than Jason the Jet Terry and the Atlanta Hawks. Later ownership under Tony Wrestler and Janie Gertz, yes, you remember Janie Gertz from Square Pegs? She owns a basketball team, has never been more competent, but roster decisions like trading Luka Doncic for Trae Young and the inability to build around Trae Young, as well as his lingering contract extension, leaves questions about long-term competitiveness. The Thrashers' early promise ended at the poor team building and the tragic death of Dan Snyder, sending the team to a relocation to Winnipeg. Recently, however, there has been conversation to bring hockey back to Atlanta, with Atlanta and the NHL both agreeing on a new expansion team. The Braves, Turner's crown jewel, now thrive under Liberty Media, winning the 2021 World Series and producing homegrown stars, though questions remain about their commitment to winning at Truist Park, as their willingness to spend on payroll has severely fallen since their championship win in 2021. As I drive down 10th Street, crossing over William Street, I think about what used to be and what could have been without the initial merger of Turner with Time Warner and the absolute catastrophic merger of AOL, Time Warner, and Turner. Thank you.